Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something fascinating. Echoes of Kabul, a journey of promises and perceptions. It's this incredibly rich story about what happens when your past slams into your present, and how maybe the biggest shock isn't adjusting to a different place, but adjusting back to the life you knew.
Exactly. That's the hook here. We follow Idris and Timur, these two Afghan-American cousins. They head back to Kabul in spring 2003. It's been, what, 2 decades since their families fled?
Yeah, a long time. And this deep dive, it's really about peeling back the layers, isn't it?
Absolutely. We're looking at family ties, duty, privilege, the whole messy business of charity, really, and how these big external events like returning to post-war Kabul can just completely shift things inside a person.
Right. Our mission, let's say, is to explore those nuances, the intentions people have, how others see them, and what actually happens as a result. It's all very personal.
And the setup is perfect. It
Yeah.
immediately gives you that sense of layer.
Yeah, so outwardly, Idris and Timur, they say they're going to Kabul to, quote, reconnect, educate themselves, bear witness.
Noble stuff. Raise awareness, raise funds. It sounds great on paper.
Totally. But then you find out pretty quickly what's really driving the trip, especially for Timur.
It's property.
Yeah.
Their father's old house. And it's suddenly worth a lot of money.
Why? Because Kabul's flooded with foreign aid workers needing places to live. Demand is through the roof.
And Timur, he's the businessman. He's quite upfront, apparently, about needing to navigate the bureaucracy there, which, as he puts it, means finding the right palms to grease. He even calls it his department.
Wow, his department. That says a lot, doesn't it? That casual sort of acceptance of how things work, maybe.
It really does. He's a pragmatist, you could say,
Yeah.
but maybe his ethics are a bit flexible when there's money involved. And this immediately sets up this fantastic contrast with Idris. We should probably get into these two characters.
Okay, yeah. Let's start with Timur. He sounds like quite the personality.
Oh, completely. He's described as just wildly sociable, super charming, cracks jokes, totally at ease,
Yeah.
self-possessed. Apparently, his good humor just papers over any faults. But Idris knows better.
Knows what?
Wow, that Timur cheats. On his wife, on his taxes, Idris suspects he's probably involved in some kind of mortgage fraud back in the States, too. Waist deep is the phrase used.
So, charm on the surface, but underneath, quite a bit going on. And what about this name change thing?
Right, so after 9/11 in the U.S., he starts going by Tim. Says it was better for business, nearly doubled his income. But the second he lands in Kabul, he's Tinger again, instantly.
It's all very calculated then, adapting for maximum advantage.
Seems like it. And his generosity, his good deeds, they seem calculated too.
Like what?
Well, he did help Idris a lot when his father died. Handled calls, food, got an announcement on Afghan TV, lent money for the funeral.
Okay, that sounds genuinely helpful.
It does. And he gave Idris a new Ford Explorer as a wedding gift. Co-signed a condo loan later. Big things.
But there's a catch, isn't there? Based on Idris's reaction.
Exactly. The Explorer key. It wasn't just handed over. Timur stopped the wedding singer, made a big announcement. The key arrived on a tray. Great ceremony. Cameras flashing. Everyone watching.
Ah, performative.
That's precisely how Idris sees it, and the co-signed loan. Timur made sure the whole family knew about it. Idris felt like Timur was just writing his own press kit.
He even argued with his wife, Nahil, about it, right? Saying it was crass to broadcast good deeds like that.
Yeah. So you get this picture of Timur's generosity being, well, a performance piece, part of this carefully built character.
Which really highlights this idea of performative charity. It's about the giver's image as much as anything else.
Definitely. Now contrast that with Idris. He's the Bashiri family academic. Quiet, sensitive, finds it hard to cry in public, the complete opposite of Timur's big displays. And he's uncomfortable in Kabul initially, not just with Timur, but with the foreign aid workers.
How so?
He picks up on their sort of lighthearted exasperation or cheerful mocking of Afghan culture. He sees it as condescending, and it bothers him.
So Idris is much more internal, more observant, maybe more critical.
Very much so. And he's got this complex mix of feelings towards Timur, resentment, but also envy. Envy of how Timur just sails through life, gets away with things.
He even thinks of Timur as an ugly American sometimes, like when Timur makes a big show of giving money to beggars or is always using his camcorder.
Right. He's hyper aware of how they might look, how they might be perceived.
Right.
And this internal conflict, this sensitivity, it really comes to a head at the hospital.
Okay, the Wazir Akbar Khan Hospital, spring 2003. What happens there?
So the setting itself is bleak. A long, dim hallway in the men's wing. And there's this little girl, Roshi, maybe 9 or 10 years old. She's in this kind of limbo space, this no man's and no woman's land, behind a bedsheet curtain nailed to the ceiling.
Why is she there?
So her uncle can visit her. He's her only relative who comes, and apparently this is the only arrangement the hospital would allow.
And Roshi. The description of her injury is just brutal.
It's incredibly graphic. She's sitting up, knees to her chest, and her head. There's a crack in the crown of her shaved head, and this fist-sized mass of glistening brain tissue leaking from it. The text compares it to the knot of a Sikh's turban. It's horrifying.
How do the cousins react?
Predictably different. Idris looks away immediately, swallows a gasp. Total silent shock. Timur. He reacts loudly, whispers, "Oh, oh, oh!" Tears spring up, and then vanish just as quickly.
Another performance. Or maybe just his way of processing.
Idris certainly seems to read it as performative, which just deepens his unease with Timur, and then Amra comes into the picture.
Amra Ademovic, the Bosnian nurse.
Yes, and she's presented as this incredibly strong figure. Pragmatic, direct, fiercely protective of Roshi. Got this maternal determination fighting the hospital, the government, some bastard neurosurgeon for this little girl.
And she's seen a lot, hasn't she?
Oh, yeah. Her background, Kosovo, Rwanda, Colombia, Burundi. Worked with child prostitutes in Cambodia. The source says she's unfooled by superficial stuff.
Okay.
She sees right through people.
And she probably sees through the cousins pretty quickly. What about the uncle, though? That interaction sounds really jarring, too.
It is. He follows Idris outside the hospital, and instead of expressing grief or concern for Roshi, he says, "I am the real victim here, Sahib."
Wow. What?
He talks about his poverty, his own 5 kids, 1 blind. He asks Idris for money for Roshi, but somehow frames it around his own suffering. He even hints it might have been better if she died. Idris feels totally cornered, gives him money. The uncle even tries to haggle for more.
What does Amra make of all that?
For her, it's sadly unsurprising. She understands the desperation poverty breeds. This doesn't shock her.
Oh.
And she definitely reads the situation with Idris and Timur.
Mm.
Later on the veranda, she just goes right out and says to Idris, "You don't like him much, do you?" Talking about
Yes.
Timur.
Straight shooter.
Totally. She says she recognized Timur's performance immediately for the benefit of gawking, wealthy, wide-eyed exiles.
Mm.
And when Idris confesses their real reason for being in Kabul, the house, Amber's just like, "Of course I know. You think I was fooled."
She says she's done business with warlords and Taliban, seen everything, nothing shocks her. That's intense.
It really is. And that level of honesty, that directness, it kind of breaks through Idris's own defenses.
It creates a connection between.
Exactly. Idris mentions how the stories of the Afghan people are like a gift for people like him and Timur, the lucky ones who weren't there during the worst of it. And Amra agrees. And that shared understanding, that moment, leads her to finally tell Idris Roshi's full story.
The unspeakable truth. And it's almost unimaginable.
It's horrific. Amra explains Roshi's family was killed by her own uncle, her father's older brother, over land, a property dispute.
How?
The uncle pretended to reconcile, came for a meal, left, then came back with an axe, struck Roshi's father from behind, nearly took his head off, silenced her mother's scream. Roshi saw her sister dragged away by the hair, heard screams from another room.
God. And Roshi escaped.
She escaped with her little brother, just 5 years old. They got to the front door, but it was locked. And then, the little boy, in sheer terror, threw himself into a tandoor oven, screaming in the flames.
Oh, my God.
Right before Roshi herself was struck with the axe. And Amra emphasizes Roshi remembers everything, clearly.
Hearing that, what does it do to Idris?
It completely undoes him,
Yeah.
but it sparks something, a need to do something.
He starts visiting her.
Daily. Brings a small TV, a VCR, tapes like E.T., Babe, Toy Story, The Iron Giant, normal kid stuff. And he sees a change in her. Her eyes come to life. She smiles, starts calling him Kaka Idris, Uncle Idris.
He's forming a real bond.
He is. He even has these fleeting thoughts about bringing her to America. And then caught up in the emotion, the connection, he makes this massive promise to Amra.
The surgery?
Yeah. He says he'll arrange for her neurosurgery back in California. He'll figure it out. He even says he'll pay out of pocket. He describes feeling exhilarated, intoxicating, euphoric even.
It feels like a huge moment for him, a real commitment. But you can almost feel the potential problems looming, can't you? Making a promise like that, so far away from his normal life.
That's exactly it. The real test isn't making the promise in Kabul. It's following through back in San Jose.
And the return home is jarring.
Completely. He goes from the manic chaos of Kabul traffic to these orderly, pothole-free U.S. freeways. It's night and day. His family asks about Kabul, but it's all superficial stuff. Food, safety, his sons. They just want to play Nintendo. They're not interested in his stories.
And this is where the real culture shock kicks in, as the source says.
Yeah, he feels this sudden rift opening up between him and his family. He starts getting annoyed by his own life.
His American life.
The home theater he always wanted, expensive kids' shoes, fancy bedspreads. Suddenly it all feels frivolous. It represents this brutal disparity compared to what he saw.
He's struggling with his privilege, basically.
Deeply. It's like a moral injury, maybe. Survivor's guilt, perhaps. His comfort feels wrong now.
What does his wife, Nethel, say?
She's very practical. She tells him, we worked hard. We have nothing to apologize for. And when he says the money for the home theater could build a school in Afghanistan, she just says, then do both. Very down to earth.
And we learn something interesting about Nahel later, don't we?
Yeah, it's a quiet detail, but really important. Years later, Idris finds out Nahel has been sponsoring a child in Colombia, Miguel, for a long time. Kept it completely to herself.
Which is such a different kind of charity, not performative like Timur's, not this grand emotional gesture like Idris's promise, just quiet, consistent support.
Exactly. It sets up this contrast. Inspiration can lead to big promises, but sustained action. That often clashes with, the pressures of daily life.
And those pressures hit Idris hard when he gets back to work.
Oh, absolutely. His work life is described as overwhelming. Overbooked schedule, difficult patients, missed appointments. Plus, he's facing a peer review for a possible misdiagnosis. Add home renovations on top of that, and he's stressed, short-tempered.
And Roshi's surgery. That promise.
It starts to fade. He keeps meaning to talk to his chief about it, but never finds the time or the energy. That initial excitement, it turns into buyer's remorse.
The connection phrase.
Totally. Roshi becomes abstract, the urgency is gone. He stops reading Amra's emails about her progress, then he starts deleting them without even opening them.
He just gives up on it.
He concludes the promise was reckless, a mistake, something best forgotten. He decides he just isn't capable of it.
Wow. That's tough. And then, fast forward 6 years.
6 years. Idris sees an ad for a book. My Father's Daughter. Written by Roshana, that's Roshi.
She wrote a book. Amazing.
He goes to a book signing. And the dedication. It's like a punch to the gut for him.
What does it say?
To the two angels in my life, my mother Amra and my Kaka Timur, you are my saviors. I owe you everything.
Kaka Timur, not Kaka Timur.
No, Timur. Idris feels exposed, just sick at the thought. Imagine seeing the person you sort of abandoned, crediting the other cousin, the one whose charity you always disdained.
And Roshi herself, what's she like now?
Completely transformed. The photo shows her as an adult, strong, poised. Her injury is hidden by long, dark hair. She's looking right at the camera, smiling. Nothing like the tremulous little creature he remembers.
Does he talk to her?
He gets in line. He even rehearses something to say. But when he gets to the front, the words just dry up. He can't speak. And her expression, that is described as polite, but also amused and distant, maybe playful, sly, unintimidated. She barely acknowledges him, looks past him to the next person.
Ouch. And then the note.
Right. As he's being ushered away, he sees she hasn't just signed the book. She's written a short note.
Which says,
don't worry, you're not in it.
Wow. Just, wow. How does he take that?
Not with relief. It hits him like an axe to the head. He sees it as this clean, diplomatic dismissal, almost like her act of charity towards him, letting him off the hook, but also erasing him completely. She's taking control of the narrative. He played no part in her salvation. He leaves the book behind on a bench. Can't even take it with him.
What an ending. So Idris starts with these mixed motives, finds this intense connection, and makes a huge promise fueled by emotion.
Right. Feels euphoric, like he's found a purpose.
But then the reality of his comfortable life, his own problems, they just erode that commitment entirely. He lets it go.
And Roshi. She finds her way, becomes this strong, accomplished person, but thanks to Amra's steadfast care and, ironically, Timur's support, the very cousin Idris judged.
It really forces you to ask, doesn't it? What does it actually mean to save someone? Was Idris's impulse truly about Roshi, or was it more about soothing his own guilt, finding his own validation?
Exactly. And what happens when the person you intended to save doesn't need you or find salvation elsewhere, maybe even forgets your grand gesture? It makes you think about legacy, about the real impact we have or fail to have on others' lives.
A really powerful story about intentions versus outcomes and how complex human connection and responsibility can be. Leaves you wondering, doesn't it? How do our stories really connect, and what marks do we truly leave behind?